ladies and gentlemen, precious people of God, there comes a time in every life. Oh yes, in every life, when the road gets hard, when the nights feel long, and when the weight on your shoulders feels like more than you can bear. But I want you to listen closely, not just with your earthly, but with your heart. Because this is for the moment when your strength is gone. This is for the moment when your faith is tired. This is for you when the going gets hard. Move, pause it, look out over the crowd, and I did not come here with empty words. I came to tell you there is a power beyond your pain. There is a purpose in the pressure. And you, yes, you were made for this moment. A God never promised it would be easy. He promised it would be worth it. This is not just a saying, it is a truth forged in the fires of every soul that has ever walked through the valley of suffering and come out stronger. We often enter our hardships expecting them to pass quickly, hoping that somehow we'll be spared from the depth of pain others have known. But the truth is, no one escapes struggle. Not the faithful, not the strong, not even the ones who pray with trembling lips night after night. Difficulty is not a sign that we've failed. It is not a signal that we are outside of God's will. In fact, sometimes the hardest seasons come right after we've said yes to the very path God has laid before us. Think of Moses standing at the edge of the Red Sea with Pharaoh's army at his back. That moment wasn't easy, but it was holy. Think of David, anointed but hunted, a king in calling but a fugitive in practice. His journey wasn't easy, but it was worth it. You see, we live in a culture that glorifies comfort, speed, and results. But heaven doesn't move at the pace of convenience. Heaven moves at the pace of transformation. And transformation takes time. It takes pressure. It takes fire. What you're going through right now, as painful and heavy and confusing as it may be, is not pointless. It is part of a process that will reveal something deeper in you, something stronger, purer, and more aligned with who God created you to be. And yes, there will be moments you want to give up. You'll question everything. You'll ask if you missed it, if you're being punished, if God has turned his face away. But listen closely now. God's silence is not his absence. He is working in the unseen. He is shaping you in the shadows. He is closer than your very breath. What's hard now will not always be hard. The mountain that seems immovable today may be the very place you stand tomorrow as a testimony to others who feel like quitting. Because the ones who hold on, not through perfection, but through persistence, are the ones who taste the sweetness of a promise fulfilled. Not because they had all the answers, but because they kept walking. The weight you carry right now may feel unbearable, but it's not without purpose. Heaven does not overlook your endurance. The sleepless nights, the silent tears, the whispered prayers, they are all seen. They are all recorded. They are all redeemable. There is a strength being built inside of you that no easy path could have formed. There is a wisdom growing in the soil of your suffering that no shortcut could ever produce. It won't always feel this heavy. You won't always feel this weary. But right now, while you are in the middle of it, remember God never promised it would be easy. He promised would be worth it. When you feel forgotten, heaven is watching. It's in those hidden seasons, the ones where silence echoes louder than any words and loneliness wraps itself around your soul, that you start to wonder if you've been overlooked. You pray, but there's no answer. You serve, but there's no recognition. You keep showing up, giving your best, but the door stays shut and the spotlight never turns your way. It's in those moments when your heart aches with questions, when doubt tries to whisper that maybe you're invisible, not just to people, but to God himself. But heaven is never blind to your obedience. It doesn't miss a single tear, a single act of faith, a single time you chose to trust even when you couldn't trace his hand. You may be hidden from the world, but you are never hidden from him. God sees what no one else sees. He watches you in the quiet places. The early mornings when you rise to seek him, the late nights when you battle through fear and keep believing, the days when you choose integrity over convenience, even though no one's watching. Being overlooked by man does not mean you are forgotten by God. In fact, the seasons of seeming silence are often the seasons of deep preparation. You're not being ignored. You're being made ready. You are being rooted in places no one can see so that you can stand in places no storm can shake. Growth doesn't always look like progress. Sometimes it looks like staying, trusting, and waiting. That kind of growth is unseen but powerful. Think of Joseph in the prison, falsely accused, left behind by those he helped. He may have felt abandoned, but heaven was watching. Every day he waited was a day heaven was preparing his elevation. Think of Hannah, pouring out her soul in the temple, her cries unnoticed by those around her, but not by God. Her prayer became the beginning of a prophetic legacy. Again and again in Scripture we see this truth. God sees in secret and rewards in due time. You may feel invisible, but you are not irrelevant. Your value is not determined by applause, and your calling is not validated by public approval. There is a timing set in heaven, and no human delay can cancel it. God's eyes are not distracted. He's not too busy. He sees you right where you are. In the small, the unnoticed, the hard. And what you're building in obedience today is laying the foundation for what He will reveal in fullness tomorrow. So even in the silence, even when the phone doesn't ring, the promotion doesn't come, the answer doesn't arrive, know this: you are not forgotten. You are being watched over by the only one who truly matters. Heaven is watching, and when the time is right, what has been done in secret will be brought to light with purpose and power. Your breaking point can become your breakthrough point. It's in that moment, the one where you feel like you can't go on, where your strength has run out, and where the last thread of hope seems to be unraveling, that something sacred begins to stir. The breaking point is not the end, though it often feels like it. It is the edge, the place where your natural capacity ends and the supernatural can begin. It is the threshold where your own effort gives way to God's intervention. We fear breaking. We fear falling apart, being exposed, losing control. But sometimes it is only in the breaking that the truth is revealed. When the clay pot is shattered, what's inside is exposed. When the heart is broken open, healing doesn't just come from the outside. It begins from within. We are so conditioned to avoid pain that we miss the hidden invitation that comes wrapped in adversity. Because when you are broken, when everything around you is shaking, that is when the foundation of your faith is tested and strengthened. You may feel like everything is falling apart, but often that's when everything is actually falling into place, just not the way you imagined. Your breaking point brings you to the end of self-reliance, and that's not weakness, that's sacred territory. Because when your strength ends, God's strength begins to rise in ways you could never manufacture on your own. He doesn't just meet you at the end. He awaits out for you there. This is the place where people discover they are stronger than they thought. Not because they mustered more effort, but because they surrendered. The breakthrough doesn't always come in the form of answered prayers or changed circumstances. Sometimes the breakthrough is internal, a peace that doesn't make sense, a joy that comes without reason, a resilience that emerges from the ashes of what was lost. And yet, that moment where you want to throw it all away is often the turning point. The enemy would love to convince you it's over, that this pain is final. But it's not. The breaking point is not your burial. It's the birthplace of something new. What feels like death can be the seed of your next beginning. It is the pressure that breaks the outer shell so that the inner life can emerge. God is not intimidated by your breaking. He's not surprised by your limits. He designed you to lean into Him when yours run out. And often, the most profound encounters with His power come when we are least capable of standing on our own. You might feel like you're unraveling, but sometimes that's exactly what needs to happen for the old to fall away and the new to be birthed. There is something divine waiting on the other side of your breaking point. Something that couldn't have been accessed without first walking through this valley. Tears are prayers too. Don't be ashamed of them. In a world that often demands strength without weakness and composure without emotion, crying can feel like failure. We're taught to hold it together, to smile through the pain, to act like we're fine even when everything inside of us is breaking. But tears are not weakness. They are not something to hide or apologize for. They are sacred. They are a language of the soul that speak what words often cannot. God collects every tear. The Scriptures say He bottles them, not a single one missed or wasted. That means your pain is not invisible to heaven. Your silent sobs in the dark, the moments you couldn't even speak, when all you could do was cry, those moments were not empty. They were not lost. They were prayers rising up in their purest form. Because sometimes when the heart breaks, it speaks through tears. And God listens. You don't have to be strong all the time. You don't have to have it all figured out. There's holiness in the weeping, in the surrender, in letting yourself feel the depth of your humanity. The pressure to appear unshaken can suffocate the healing that needs to happen. But when you allow yourself to cry, you allow the healing process to begin. You let yourself be honest with God, with yourself, and with the pain you carry. Jesus Himself wept. He knew the end of the story. He knew resurrection was coming. Yet, when faced with grief, he didn't rush past it. He didn't minimize it. He entered into it. He stood at the tomb of Lazarus and wept. That moment tells us that divine strength does not deny emotion. It embraces it. Your tears are not signs of doubt. They are signs that you are alive, that you care deeply, that your heart is engaged. And God honors that. There are moments when the only response to life's weight is a flood of tears. You may cry over loss, over betrayal, over dreams that seem delayed or destroyed. You may cry out of confusion, exhaustion, or desperation. Every one of those tears carries weight. They are not ignored by the one who formed your heart. He knows what each tear means. He knows the story behind them, the prayers tied to them, the hopes hidden within them. Sometimes, the greatest strength is found in the ability to break open before God without fear or shame, to pour out your heart in all its rawness, and know you are still held, still loved, still seen. Tears can be the beginning of a turning point. They soften the hardened ground of your heart so that faith can take deeper root. They clear the clutter of pride and pretense, making room for authentic connection with God. So let the tears fall if they need to. Let your soul breathe through the weeping. Let your emotions be a bridge instead of a barrier. Heaven hears your tears as clearly as your words, and sometimes even more deeply. You don't need to understand the why to trust the who. Life will bring you to places where answers seem miles away. You'll search for meaning in situations that make no sense, moments that break your heart, detours that delay your dreams, seasons that stretch you so far you feel like you'll snap. The human instinct is to demand answers, to make sense of the pain, to understand the reason for the suffering. But faith doesn't always offer explanations. Faith offers presence, God's presence, and that is more powerful than any answer. We think peace will come when we understand, but real peace comes when we trust. Because there are things we may never understand this side of eternity. There are losses we may never fully explain, prayers that seem unanswered, and situations that defy all logic. And yet in the middle of that, there is a person who remains unchanging. God does not require our understanding to prove his faithfulness. He simply asks for our trust. Trust when it hurts. Trust when it's unclear. Trust when the ground beneath us feels unsteady. It is in those moments when we stop trying to figure it all out and simply lean in that we begin to see who God truly is. He is not just the God of the mountaintop. He is the God of the valley. He is not just the God of the answers. He is the God of comfort in the questions. And even when he doesn't explain, he sustains. That kind of trust doesn't come easily, but it comes deeply. It is formed in the fire, refined in the silence, and strengthened in the waiting. Abraham didn't understand why he had to lay his promise on the altar. Joseph didn't understand why his dreams led him to a prison. Mary didn't understand how she, a virgin, would carry the Savior of the world. And yet, all of them trusted the one who had called them. They trusted not because they had all the information, but because they knew the character of the one who held the plan. That is the heart of real faith. Not having all the facts, but holding on to who God is when everything else is uncertain. The storms of life may shake your understanding, but they don't have to shake your trust. Because trust is not based on outcomes. It's based on relationship. It's not about seeing the full picture. It's about knowing the heart of the artist. And his heart is good, even when life isn't. Trust says, I don't see the way forward, but I know the one who does. I don't understand the pain, but I trust the purpose. I don't know why, but I know who. There's freedom in releasing the need to control the narrative. There's peace in letting go of the pressure to make sense of every detail. You are not alone in your confusion, and you are not less faithful for having questions. Faith isn't the absence of questions. It's the presence of trust despite them. The darkest valley still leads to the mountain. No one wants the valley. It's low, shadowed, and often filled with silence. It's where your prayers feel unanswered and your strength feels too small. It's where vision dims and the weight of life presses in so deeply that even breathing feels like effort. But the valley is not the end of the story. It is not a detour. It is part of the path. And if you keep walking, step by trembling step, you'll find that it leads to places higher than you ever imagined. The valley tests what the mountaintop reveals. It's in the valley where your faith is stretched, your character shaped, and your trust deepened. It's where you learn to lean, not on your understanding, but on the one who walks beside you even when you can't see him. You're not alone in that place, even if your feelings try to convince you otherwise. God does his deepest work in the valley because that's where we become most aware of our need for him. Mountains are beautiful, but they don't build you. Valleys do. Mountains may inspire, but valleys transform. Every hero of faith in Scripture had a valley. David had the valley of the shadow of death. Elijah had the wilderness cave. Jesus himself walked through Gethsemane, where the weight of what was to come pressed him to his knees. And yet none of them stayed there. The valley was not their grave. It was their passage. The crushing came before the crowning. The struggle came before the strength. In the valley, you feel the most broken. But that brokenness is not a sign of failure. It's a sign of formation. It's where the false things fall away. It's where your priorities shift, your prayers deepen, and your dependence on God grows stronger than ever. You begin to realize that even without the things you thought you needed, you still have the one who never leaves. That realization becomes an anchor, holding you steady when everything else around you shakes. The journey through the valley teaches you perseverance. It teaches you to keep going, not because it's easy, but because it's worth it. You may not feel strong, but you're growing stronger. You may not see progress, but each step is carrying you forward. And what's waiting on the other side is not just a view, it's victory. The mountain doesn't erase the pain of the valley, but it redeems it. It gives it perspective. It turns your scars into stories and your struggles into strength. Don't judge your journey by the season you're in. Don't let the darkness of the valley convince you that the light is gone. There is a summit beyond this stretch of sorrow. There is clarity beyond this confusion. There is joy ahead that will make sense of the tears behind. And every step you take, even the smallest, is movement toward that mountain.